Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's Week 10 in the NFL. We are talking with Jeff Cadillac from jeffcadillac.com. He has chosen the Chicago-St. Louis game from Week 10 to analyze with us. I'm Peter Loshak. You're watching SBR Videos. All right, Jeff Cadillac, St. Louis, very interesting team, right? Obviously, at home, they can dominate in low-scoring games, weak teams. They did that against Cleveland. They did that against San Francisco. Question is, are the Chicago Bears quite in that category? Obviously, a team with a lot of deficiencies. If you put them squarely in that category, then you got to think St. Louis at -7 is a good bet, and maybe the under as well, maybe a carbon copy of those two games. Chicago, of course, coming off the Monday night game, that puts them at a disadvantage, I guess. Tough game to analyze here. If you take St. Louis, you're given a healthy amount of points at 7. What do you like here, Jeff?
Well, Peter, I like what I saw with Chicago on Monday night, and I'm leaning more on the Chicago side on this one.
Okay.
It seems that Jay Cutler and company are starting to really turn things around on offense, and they're playing very competitive against a lot of teams. In the last 5 games, their games have been decided by 3 points or less. And Matt Forte was out against San Diego, but this guy Jeremy Langford, he comes in and he becomes a dual threat for Chicago, which takes a lot of pressure off Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler against San Diego, he threw a pick 6, but San Diego was terrible. I mean, their offensive line was stinking all over the place. They have offensive guys that can really do the job, but if you don't have an offensive line that can protect that quarterback and give them time, it's not going to happen. And Chicago put pressure on Rivers all night long. Even though we're talking about San Diego, even though we're talking about Chicago, still, I like what I saw from Chicago. You also have Alshon Jeffrey had an all-star game last week as well against San Diego. It seems like no matter what Jay Cutler threw towards him, he caught it, except that pick 6. He was a little out of, he was out of the way on that one. And, it seemed like a little mix-up between the two. But, you have on the St. Louis side, you got Stedman Bailey, who was suspended for 4 games for substance abuse. And they went and signed Wes Welker, who will be showing up in a Rams uniform this weekend. Now, last week against Minnesota, St. Louis was about a 2.5-point underdog, and they lost by 3 points in overtime. So, the running game, Todd Gurley, he was, he didn't run for 100 yards last week. It seemed like the Rams Express was put on hold for 1 week, but they were playing a tough team in Minnesota. Can't complain there. They played them tough. The game went into overtime, and a lot of times in overtime, you know what happens? It could go either way, and sometimes. And that's what happened with the Rams. And I think this week, Chicago +7. It's a lot of points to give a team that is playing very competitive football as of late. The Rams defense, they do give up plays at certain times. And the Chicago offense last night, Martellus Bennett also had, the tight end for Chicago, had a very nice night as well against San Diego. I mean, San Diego, all they needed to do against Chicago was make a few stops, and they couldn't do it. And Jay Cutler was really playing well. He was playing to the point where, we always think of Jay Cutler as fumbling the ball all the time and throwing a lot of interceptions. But last night he wasn't doing that against San Diego. So, right now with Chicago playing as competitive as they are, I do like the +7 against the Rams. The Rams, we all know they did blow out Cleveland and San Francisco, but, that's Cleveland and San Francisco. Chicago, I would have to say, even though their record is not as great at 3-5, they are a better team offensively. Jay Cutler is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick was, and I think he's a better quarterback than Johnny Manziel was after he came in for McCown when he injured himself. So I like the points here. I think it's too many points to ignore. I would take Chicago +7 at the Rams.
All right, interesting analysis, Jeff Cadillac. I'm also thinking about maybe a shot with the under. The total is 42.5, which is low, but not that low. And the Bears have actually gone under in 5 of their last 6. Of course, the Rams very low scoring. They've gone under in 6 out of their last 7. Still thinking about that one, though. What do you think about? Let me just ask your opinion on the under. Do you think Jay Cutler's going to have a big passing day against St. Louis, or do you think they're going to hold them down like they've held other teams down at home?
I think it's going to be a tight game. I would, I don't think the under is a bad bet here because of the kind of defenses that the Rams have, and also all of a sudden Chicago is playing a better defense.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not playing, the New Englands and the Denvers of the world, But whoever they're playing on their schedule, they're playing very tight. And, San Diego was supposed to be this big offensive team. They scored 3 points in the second half. And Chicago scored 15 in the fourth quarter. So, they have a will to come back. Jay Cutler, I think, and Fox together is a good combination right now. The under, I would say, is a pretty good bet right now, but you never know. Tight games sometimes.
Right.
All of a sudden a touchdown, bam, here, there on a turnover, and it goes right over.
Yeah, sure. Especially 42.5 could easily land on 43. All right, Jeff Cadillac, like in Chicago, +7. Interesting analysis. Jeff, tell us what your website, jeffcadillac.com, is all about.
Well, at Jeff Cadillac, what I do, I analyze all the games, and I do extensive analysis on each game for free. A lot of times what I do is I show a lot of the research numbers that we don't mention here on SBR. I post them on my website so that you can see where I get my information from. Also, I have my best bet on Twitter at Jeff Cadillac 1 every Friday on Twitter.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeff.